Right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special edition of that Millwall podcast post-match chat with Chaps. I picked the right game, didn't I? That's for sure. I definitely picked the wrong game. But look, we just thought we'd do something a little bit different today. I had hoped for a better result than we got, but we'll see how we go. Don't really know how this is all going to work, but hopefully we can add some talking points for sure. I can see all your comments as well, so please do put your comments in the chat. And we'll go from there. But to start with, what we'll do is we'll do the normal running order. So I'll keep it to the exact same format that I normally do, and we'll see if we can do it all. I normally do it in one take, but we'll see if there's any mishaps as we go along. So look, I think my overall summary of the game is you cannot perform like we did against any side in this league and expect to get any points. You have to give a little bit of credit to Queen's Park Rangers. I think they nullified a lot of our attacking threat. I think it's no surprise that the likes of Duncan Watmore and Brook Norton-Cuffy were really poor today. So you have to give them a little bit of credit. But ultimately, we've got to look at ourselves. And that's now the last 3 games. We conceded 8 goals and only scored 3 goals ourselves. We are in desperate need of some attacking reinforcements. And I just hope there's something coming our way next week. Okay, so as I say, normal running order. So I'm just going to kick off with the team that started. So for those of you that watched the game, you already know this. Didn't go today, obviously, hence me being here. Still recovering from a minor procedure. And also our friend Joe Zampa is still recovering. So get well soon, Joe. And we may or may not be speaking to him a little bit later. So the team that started. So Sarkic in goal. Back 3, Danny Mack kept his place on the right side of the back 3. Wes Harding in the centre and Jake Cooper on the left-hand side of the back 3. The wing-backs, Brook Norton-Cuffy, welcome back to the side in place of Ryan Longman. And Joe Bryan, despite his up-and-down performance in the last game, kept his place on the left-hand side. Probably the most, not a surprise, I suppose, but, you know, when we've got George Saville and Casper De Norre back and available to have Billy Mitchell and George Honeyman start again, I guess neither of them have performed poorly. So they both started in the centre of the park. And then the front 3, which picks itself with Bradders being out injured. And I'm led to believe he was in with the crowd as well today, which was just nice of him. He really does come across like a top bloke. The front 3 was Duncan Watmore, Zian Fleming, and of course, the Scotsman, Kevin Nisbet, who I'm sure we will talk a lot about today. So that was the 11. I think for Queen's Park Rangers, on paper, they're not a bad side. They're really not. And I've got some friends who are Queen's Park Rangers fans who I may or may not start to ignore their WhatsApp messages. But they got some good players. I think Sinclair Armstrong, he's raw, but he's decent. I'm sure we'll talk more about him. Chris Willock and Elias Chair have been real top-end championship performers for a lot of their career. Lyndon Dykes really splits opinion with QPR fans, but I thought he performed well today. And they've got some sort of older, sort of steelier heads at the back. So they're not a bad side. And actually, if you watch them against Watford and Bournemouth, they were, they deserved more than they got. And whilst their home form is really poor, so they've only scored, I think, 2 goals in the last 4 home games, obviously before today. And I think they've only got 1 point. I think that we should be going there and trying to force more than we did. But look, we kick off, and I have to say, I think the first 10 minutes we were okay. I felt that we were trying to be our normal selves. We were, there's a couple of times we played out from the back quite nicely to get ourselves into sort of nearly moments. QPR looked very, very shaky on the ball at the back. The likes of Kenneth Powell, Reggie Cannon, and Clark Salter, they sort of clearing the ball into touch, and we're like, right, okay, well, the first goal and an early goal for us could be crucial. And I was kind of expecting a similar performance that we saw against Middlesbrough, where we started, the first half against Middlesbrough, we all said was superb, and I kind of expected that. And I honestly felt that if we could do that, we could quite easily nick a goal or 2 against this Queen's Park Rangers side. And the first 10 minutes didn't really change the way I thought on the game. But after the first 10 minutes, if I'm being completely honest, between minute 10 and the end of the game, I think it's the worst we played under Edwards by a country mile. And it's probably a lot worse than we played for a lot of the times under Rowett. And that's just my opinion. I was joking with Joe before this that I've not had the opportunity to calm down and reflect, and I don't have all the stats that I normally have because this is literally right off the cuff. So, but that's my honest opinion. I think we were incredibly poor, and picking a man of the match today is going to be very difficult because I don't really think anyone was that good. Although, do let me know in the chat who you would pick if you had to. I think if I had to, I'd probably give it to Billy Mitchell. And those of you who probably know that I felt his performances recently have been pretty poor. But if I had to pick someone who I felt had that kind of effort and drive and never give up, which we've seen recently under Edwards, but we just didn't see today. So, you know, it's really difficult to talk about chances and moments and things because we really didn't create anything. We had 2 shots on target the whole game. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. 2 shots the whole game, 1 on target to QPR's 12. And we just, I don't know what it was. We were really poor in, we couldn't seem to create any patterns of play. We didn't win 50-50s. We were not able to kind of, some of the passing was dreadful, not finding the second, you know, just that second pass. And yeah, a lot was made on the commentary around the pitch. I mean, I don't know, whoever was there, let me know, but I honestly don't think for a second that you can, it's the same for both sides, right? But look, you know, they're the ones who get the goal. And it's a shocking goal to concede. It really should be nothing. The ball is on the right-hand side, so our left side. The cross should never come in. The first mistake today was Joe Bryan letting that cross come in. Watch it back. He does not, he's not trying enough to stop that cross coming in. Seriously, watch it back. He's not trying enough to stop that cross coming back in. And the amount of times now we've said that Joe Bryan, he's got a lot of quality going forward. He's very, very good. But defensively, he was poor against Middlesbrough, arguably at fault for both goals. And I think he had a hand in this one. The ball comes back across goal, and Brook Norton-Cuffy has to be stronger there. He has to deal with Elias Chair. He's much bigger than him, stronger. I don't know whether he doesn't see him, you know, so therefore he's kind of off balance. But somehow Elias Chair manages to bundle it into the goal, and we find ourselves 1-0 down. And from the point of being 1-0 down, I felt that they just grew in confidence. It was the worst thing that could have happened because they, like I said, they haven't been playing badly. So by them getting that goal, they just grew and grew in confidence. And that was evident. You know, they stopped making the silly passes and playing it into touch at the back. And they started to play with a little bit more rhythm, which coincidentally, we then started to have even worse rhythm than we had at all. I think, when I look back at the first half, I thought that Wes Harding and Brook Norton-Cuffy were really poor, alongside Kevin Nisbet, who I'm going to talk a bit about separately a little bit later on. I thought those 3 in particular were poor. No one was good, by the way. I'm not for one second suggesting that anyone played really, really well, but I felt that those 3 in particular were really poor. And this is the difference between sort of the likes of, you know, and not to discredit Wes Harding, I think he's done a job when needed, but the difference between him and Hutch, I felt that Sinclair Armstrong, we struggled to deal with, particularly in that first half. His pace, power, raw athleticism. If he had end product, by the way, QPR fans, if anyone is listening, it'd be some player. I know he's out of contract at the end of the season, so we'll have to see where he ends up. But obviously, he goes on to get his goal in the second half. But I felt in the first half, he really did cause us a lot of problems without much end product. But for me, someone like Hutch deals with him. You know, he's able to be in his face, aggressive, and he'll kind of, you know, outmuscle him a little bit. Whereas I felt Sinclair Armstrong was getting the much better of our defence in that first half. And yeah, I think the first half fizzles out, and then you're looking at the bench, right, for at half time, and you're looking, okay, well, what changes can we make? And I'm silent there because there isn't much. There really isn't much, and this is where the club have got to help Edwards out. You look at that bench, and whilst I don't necessarily agree with all the subs he made, you look at the bench and there's no attacking options at all. There's not even a kid on the bench that's an attacking option. I've seen some mentions on social media to say, why didn't Romain Esse come on? I think it's a fair argument. All I would say is quite clearly he doesn't fancy him. And he's not the first manager to not fancy him, right? He didn't really get much in the way from Rowett in terms of minutes, even when Barrett was in charge. Yeah, so obviously we didn't see Romain Esse, but you look at that bench, like, what can you do? We start the second half, same 11, and it's the same. It's much of the same. It's a really poor performance. There's just no rhythm. We just don't click. You always felt if we could click at 1-0 down, the game could be turned on its head, because I guarantee you the confidence would just sap from the QPR side, given what they experienced against Watford. But we didn't test them. Their keeper, I know he's been around a long time and he's very experienced, but their keeper is appalling. He's shocking. And we did not test him in any way, shape or form, Begovic. He proved against Watford, for those of you that saw that game, that 2 long-distance goals that, we'd be saying were Jules Long-esque. So, but we didn't test him, and that's the only, it's fault of our own. Just going back to the first half, what I would say is we had one opportunity in that first half on 43 where Mitchell does well. He intercepts, he drives forward, he finds Watmore on the left. Watmore does, it's probably the only good thing he did in that game. He manages to find Nisbet in the box, and then Nisbet, I think, is his left foot, goes miles over the bar, and that was the only chance that we created in that first half. So just to kind of go back to that first half. But as I say, second half, no real change. And then we make a substitution on 55, which for me says all you need to know. He takes off our only fit striker. Again, I'm assuming he's fully fit here. He takes off our only fit striker in Kevin Nisbet, and he brings on Ryan Longman, who has never played up front for us. He's played right back, he's played left wing back, he's played right wing back, he's played on the right of a front three, he's played left on the front three, but never as a central striker for us, and I don't believe he is. He did play as a central striker for AFC Wimbledon when he was on the loan there last season. But, this is 2 leagues lower. But to me, that says a lot about 2 things. Number one, it says a lot about what the club and Edwards think of Nisbet at the minute. And it says a lot about just the lack of options on the bench. We have to sign a striker this week. So if anyone at the club is watching, you're probably not. But if you are, get your checkbook out. And we need to sign a striker. I'm sure we're trying, by the way. I'm sure we're trying. And then the second half, there's nothing really happening. There's no real moments of quality anywhere. I think it's, maybe the weather conditions, it was very windy there, contribute to it. It is a narrow pitch, QPR, so I don't know whether that contributed to the lack of effectiveness from our wide players, but nothing really kind of happens. And then I think that we have our best chance of the entire game where I can't recall it exactly. Obviously, I've not had the benefit of watching anything back, but all I do remember is it breaking to Billy Mitchell on the end of the edge of the box. And to be fair, he hits it better than he normally does, gets it on target low. Begovic completely dives over the ball. And it's cleared off the line by one of their players. And that is as good as it got for us. It really was. And that was, if I recall, was on about 71. Then we make some more subs. When we make an attacking substitution that is Murray Wallace, and this is not slating Murray Wallace, by the way, just to be really clear. But when that is our attacking substitution, we're thin on the ground. So he comes on. We also bring on, everyone was absolutely buzzing in the week for Mr. Tanganga to join us, and he comes on. And again, I will say that I don't understand why he brought Tanganga on and stuck to a back 3. We're clearly, chasing the game, and he insists on keeping the back 3 with Tanganga, Harding and Cooper. For me, what I would have done, and then he pushes Danny Mack sort of further up on the right-hand side. I don't understand that. I get that Brook Norton-Cuffy might not be able to do 90 minutes, but just don't bring Tanganga on. Or if you do, bring off Harding. Like, I don't get the need for playing 3 at the back. And then they get their second, which, from the angles I've seen, that's poor from Sarkic. On the commentary, I think they did say that his vision was impaired for the goal. I don't know. But to me, it's just poor. It's really poor. A shot comes in from Colback. Whether he's impaired or not, he should hold on to it. He doesn't. He's slow to react to get up. Cooper and Harding are slow to react. Who's quick? Sinclair Armstrong taps it into an empty net. QPR 2-0 up. And look, you have to give credit to QPR because they nullified us, but QPR are a poor side. You know, they really are a poor side. They don't play good football. And today was our opportunity, in my opinion, to go to a team that are devout of confidence and to win and really sort of show just how far we've come. And I actually think we showed the complete opposite. There was no fight today. There was terrible football all round. I haven't got the stats. Normally I would do, as I say, but I felt that we played more long ball football today than we have done any other time under Joe Edwards' tenure. So let me know in the chat if you also spotted that, because that's one thing I felt we did a lot, and I don't really understand why we did that. But it's a poor goal to concede, shocking goalkeeping, really slow to react, and QPR find themselves 2-0 up. And I think the difference between today and against Middlesbrough is I genuinely thought against Middlesbrough we played really, really well for 60 minutes, but the scoreline flattered them. Today, I think the scoreline flattened QPR because I think they're a poor side, but we were shocking. Let's make no mistake about it. I think one thing I will say is we are without Ryan Leonard, Sean Hutchinson, Casper Dinor, Tom Bradshaw, and Idamoa Maku. That's 5 players that arguably would all start. And you take out half of any side, and there's going to be an impact. I honestly believe the one player, actually, I'm going to say 2 players, but the first player that comes to my mind, and someone's actually just said the same thing in the chat. So Frank, I completely agree with you that we are not the same team without Ryan Leonard. We are just not the same team without Ryan Leonard. It's so clear for me to see we're just not the same team. I also think we're not the same team until we find an alternative solution with another centre forward. We're not the same team without Bradshaw. Nisbet, I've seen, and Joe Zampa is gonna join us very shortly. By the way, guys, we're doing something a little bit different. We didn't plan to do this, but Joe Zampa is going to join us very soon because we've got slightly different opinions on Kevin Nisbet. What I will say from my perspective, and I'll open up to Joe when he does join, is that Nisbet, I don't care how good he is as a finisher, he does not work hard enough. And yeah, okay, he only had 1 chance in that game, but a lot of that is because he's not working hard enough. He doesn't hassle like Bradshaw does. Bradshaw is not a very good Championship striker, but yet for me, he's still miles ahead of where Nisbet is at the minute. To me, I don't know whether he just doesn't care. He's not fit. He's lazy. You speak to anyone that used to watch him in the Scottish League, they would say he wasn't lazy. I don't know what it is, but it's just not working. And every game you go into, he's playing, you think, yeah, it's going to be the time that he comes good, and he just don't. So we'll definitely talk about Nisbet a little bit later. But look, I think there's no point me talking about anything else to do with the game because we didn't create anything else, and it was piss poor. There was also a lack of the basics today, which we've had even when we've not been playing well in the last sort of month or so under Edwards. Today, I felt we didn't. I felt we were outfought by QPR. And I'm sorry, I'm sure you will agree, as a Millwall fan, we don't accept that. It's not good enough. So, look, I'm not going to go through player ratings because I think they were all poor. If I had to pick a man of the match, as I said earlier, I'd probably give it to Billy Mitchell, just because I felt he tried really hard and he had a bit more effort and endeavour, and he sort of was industrious. He's kind of normal self. But that just tells you I'm giving a man of the match performance to him on the basis of the fact everyone else was terrible. Obviously, of course, I wouldn't give it to anyone, but if I had to give it to someone, I would give it to Billy Mitchell. So, look, there we go. 20 minutes in, I've done my normal sort of how I would do these normally. Managed to do it in 1 take, so I'm quite pleased for that. I haven't had a beer yet either, but I definitely bloody need one after watching that crap. The only other thing, just looking at my notes that I've got here before I bring in Mr. Zampa, is that I felt also QPR could have had a penalty. There was a moment where Harding, it was right at him from a close distance, but his arm, I've seen it once, but his arm was out. And I've seen those given, to be perfectly honest. So maybe we were lucky there. But look, it don't matter. With these, you have to draw a line. You've got to move on. And we have to sign a striker. We have to sign a striker because it's just not good enough. I'll take Sinclair Armstrong, that's for sure, because he hassled us today. Elias Chair, we all know when he turns up, good player when he turns up. And unfortunately for us today, he did. I can't stand him, but it is what it is. Right. Look, I am going to bring in my fellow co-host of that Millwall podcast, Mr. Joe Zampa, and get his opinion on the game today. A Vampire Millwall, great shout, man of the match to the 12th man, which was the supporters who definitely shown up today, unlike the players. Great shout, Vampire Millwall. Let's bring in Joe. Hello, Joe.
How are you doing? You're right. I've hid away the knife and forks, and fear I might slip my wrist after watching that. I mean, that was dire, wasn't it? That wasn't the Mill performance we've seen in the last 5 games. I'll even include the Leicester and the Borough matches. At least we tried, we had effort, and we played a bit of quality. But
yeah,
I don't know what that was about. I mean, listen to your live. Well done doing that. Your review live there, first time. No mistakes as well. I know you don't edit your stuff anyway, but that was good. So
cheers
for doing that, chaps. But disappointing, isn't it? And going back to the points you made, I think they're all valid points, all excellent points. I guess QPR sort of did to us what we've been doing to teams for the last 4 or 5 games, but without the quality. And by that, I meant the intensity was there. They played with aggression. They bullied us, all over the pitch. You can see they focused quite heavily on McNamara and Wes Harding with Armstrong and even Lyndon Dykes sort of like throwing a couple of elbows in and things like that. They're being very, very physical with us. And we didn't have that. I guess that's the only thing that was missing in our side, was having a bit of a presence further up the pitch. A Lyndon Dykes type of player, or like you say, a Sinclair Armstrong,
or a Saville. Could the likes of Sav not have made a difference? Right, I know.
Yeah, good
I don't know
point.
whether he was match fit to start, because obviously he's missed the last 3 games. In theory, he should still be match fit. But do you think he could have made a difference today, Joe?
I think so, because I think even in the centre of the park, I mean, we weren't just beaten in the air, in their attacking in their attacking areas. I think even in the middle of the park, you see it quite often. Billy Mitchell going up for headers. I mean, Honeyman's only 4'2", isn't he? So we didn't win anything really in the middle of the park. And I'm not saying that Saville's a giant, but I think he's about 6 foot tall. And he does get up quite well. He can win a couple of headers, and he can add a bit of presence in the centre midfield. And that was kind of like lacking or missing, I think, a little bit today as well. So, yeah, I just think we were bullied. And the one person we had on the pitch who probably could bully them in the air was Jake Cooper. And everything was kind of going down their left side purposely. And you watch the runs that Sinclair Armstrong was doing and the players that he was choosing to go up against. It was always Wes Harding or Danny McNamara. He was almost targeting them because he knew it's pointless going on Cooper. And even Lyndon Dykes didn't go towards Cooper. So Cooper was essentially left on his own today. So I think that was a well sort of thought out sort of tactic plan.
They definitely did their homework on us and knew how to null it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I know it's not easy to do, especially when you're pissed off about a defeat, but you have to give credit to the way they set up and the way they carried out them instructions. But for me, like, I remember I've noted here, I think we got a corner on 79 and George Honeyman didn't beat the first man. I'm sorry, but things like that are just...
I remember that.
They're not good enough. Like, I don't care how well other teams set up against us. I don't care how, tactically we might get undone. Basics, like beating the first man from a corner. And I'm not just digging at George Honeyman here. Everyone did it, right? But it just ain't good enough, is it?
No, absolutely. And I think that was it. The quality in the final third was terrible today. I mean, our stats showed, I think we had 1 or 2 shots, one on target, I think.
Yeah, the whole game.
Against their, look at my notes here. So
that was Mitchell's stance.
Yeah, they had 12 shots and 5 on target. So, I mean, possession-wise, it was 50-50. But then you would think that because we're obviously trying to get back in the games, we're trying to sort of get on the ball. The trouble is we're trying to play direct football, and we've got nothing up front. Like you're trying to hit long balls up to Nisbet. And I know where you're coming from, Nisbet. I mean,
but we don't normally do that, Joe, do we? We don't normally. No. We've been passing the ball a lot more and creating opportunities from starting at the back, but we did play a lot more direct today, which I don't know if that was deliberate or we were just panicking. But yeah, Joe,
isn't it?
No, exactly, mate. And I know you've got a point of view on this bit. So let's just have a little bit of a debate. What was your view on his performance today? And I guess
Okay.
what he's been the last few weeks.
Absolutely, yeah. So I know people sort of question, what he's like as a target man. Can he hold the ball up? Blah blah blah. He isn't strong. He isn't physical like Bradshaw is. Bradshaw can sort of battle it out, and I know he's not particularly big, but he'll give as good as he gets. Nisbet, I just think he's got a very good touch on him. Technically, he's a very, very good player. If the ball plays up to him, he can flick it on, he can control it, turn it. But as soon as a defender's on him, and you saw it today, as soon as that pressure's on him, he can't hold the ball up. He can't really play very well with his back to the goal. And I saw that quite vividly today. But then to his defence, he was isolated. So many times I saw Nisbet today with 3 defenders around him and not one Millwall player. Again, Fleming's playing too deep. I know he's got this thing in his head where he wants to be the kind of the general and play deep and get on the ball and make things happen. But
he did nothing today, did he, Fleming? I know, like we're digging out Nisbet and whatever, but Fleming was back to the Fleming of a month ago that just wasn't impacting the game whatsoever.
Absolutely. But where I want to see him is in their box, further up the pitch in their goal area. And when Joe Edwards made that substitution and put Longman up front on his own, that was a bit weird. He then plays Danny McNamara as a right wing back, which I don't think Danny done too badly and on the right side of that defence, with respect. Why didn't he put Longman on the right wing back? I mean, he destroyed Borough the other day on that side.
He did,
yeah. Put Tanganga where Danny Mac was, and then stick Fleming up top, and maybe bring on another midfielder. You could brought Savile on, or Esse or someone, and just move Fleming as a centre forward.
Yeah,
Fleming, he's better in the air. He's a bit stronger. He's physical, and get him in the game because he wasn't getting in the game at all. So it's a real weird one. And go back to your point there, Chris. Sorry to interrupt you there, but we went direct after about 20, 30 minutes. When we struggled, so the first 20 minutes we thought we were great. They were shit, QPR. We then go direct out of desperation, and when we bring Longman up front, we go even more direct. And the poor guy's running around like a headless chicken. He's got no chance getting the ball,
Yeah. No, mate, I agree. I think that the players have to take blame for their performance, but I also feel that Edwards made some questionable substitutions, as you're alluding
Very
to.
strange.
I don't. And the thing is, there could be. Look, we all can sit there and be like, "What's going on here?" and all stuff like that. But there might be reasons. We don't know that if players are carrying a knock or they're injured, or we don't know. But to bring on Tanganga, basically as a straight personnel swap and not push anyone else further forwards. I don't get it. Like, obviously, we're all buzzing that we've got Tanganga, right? There's no, but it just didn't impact the game. It was weird. I almost felt that the game was probably crying out after 60 minutes for Savile, because he's going to come on and he's going to
go
around and
we need a leader on the pitch
and whatever.
Exactly, we need a leader on the pitch. I mean, they were nasty. They were quite aggressive. They were leaving a bit in every single time, and we were getting battered a little bit. I think Savile on that pitch would have given us that little bit of extra presence in there. Hopefully sort of galvanise us a little bit. I mean, the Tanganga point, very, very good. I mean, he came on. I mean, I'd much rather see Tanganga play as a right wing back and keep Danny Mac where he was. But again, is that Joe Edwards being clever? Maybe he knows he can't be bombing up and down that wing if he hasn't played many games, he's not match fit. Last thing you want to do is then pull a muscle. Whereas being quite sensible and just playing him that kind of role at the back there and just taking it easy was probably the minutes he needed. But equally, we're not kind of rolling the dice too hard either, I guess,
Do you think a lot of that's down to leadership? So I'm going to start putting some comments up from the chat. And so Glenn makes an interesting one here. It's similar to what you're alluding to there, Joe. But we miss leaders on the pitch, without Hutch and Leonard. Love Cooper, as I said, he's going to play 400 or 500 games for us and he'll go down as one of our most, capped ever players. But he's not a leader today. He's not a leader. And I did feel I'm going to add Savile to Glenn's names there. With the way that QPR were as well, I felt that we definitely lacked some of that, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not blessed with leaders. I mean, we're kind of like scraping the barrel a little bit when we mention those names, because vocally they're not really, are they? But maybe that's something that Joe's looking at. I don't think we're going to bring a lone player in that's going to give us that leadership.
No, then no, he's not. No.
It'll be someone we're probably looking to sign in the summer that might give us that bit of leadership, but we desperately need it. Especially, you know, we look at Hutchison at the moment. I mean, is he going to be here next season? We don't know. Will he be kept on for a year? We don't know. So if you take him out of the equation, we're not really left with much, are we, in regards to, you know, players with leadership that can really sort of like take the team and kind of lift them when we need them to, you know.
Agree, mate. Agreed.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments coming through, is there?
Yeah, so this is another one that I wanted to just touch on, because I think, look, I think it's easy to react emotionally to games like that today, and also to performances like today, right? Because it's not just we lost. They're probably our sort of one of our biggest rivals in the league as well, really. You know, that the fans have turned out in great numbers, and credit to everyone that went. You could hear you loud and clear. But, you know, I've always said don't get up too high when we win and don't get too low when we lose. But, Joe, what's your perspective on, you know, are we going to be pulled into a dogfight if we continue like that? Because QPR now beating us. They've got Huddersfield next game. Rotherham won to. Did they win or did they draw in the end?
They drew 1-1, I think, didn't they?
They did, because they on it just before. I'm going to go off on a complete tangent here. Rotherham Borough completely. If Borough had beaten Rotherham today, I'd have won 500 quid on an acca.
Oh no, really? That close?
Rotherham done me today, but that's proven another day. But anyway, going back to the point. Do you think that we're going to be pulled into a dogfight? A dogfight.
I mean, before today, we were 11 points clear of QPR, who are third off bottom. Today, we're now 8 points clear. We dropped to 18th place, but luckily, with those 3 wins we had over Christmas, those 9 points has kind of helped us out massively. And we knew it then how important that would be to us. So at the moment, we've still got that cushion, which is great. We've got players out injured. We've got players that are back but not quite fit yet. So, you know, let's trust the process still. I'd rather be in our position than be in QPR's position, put it that way. And hopefully with 1 or 2 more signings in this window, with the players coming back and players come back to fitness, I think we'll be fine. I mean, today you can almost kind of like, you know, kick this one to the side a little bit and kind of like move on. I mean, it's disappointing. I feel sorry for the 2,600 odd fans that travelled to go and watch that today. It's not what they wanted to see. Who, again, you know, I watched it on the TV, a bit like yourself, because obviously we couldn't get to it, unfortunately. But they were vocal, they were noisy, they were loud, you know, to create an atmosphere. So, you know, you can't blame the fans not being there supporting them. You know, that should have given them a lift, but it didn't quite do it for them. So, but no, I mean, going back to Wally's message there, I don't think we're in a dogfight at the moment. I mean, ask the same question in 6 weeks or so, but at the minute, I think we're okay, and I'd rather be in our position than QPR's.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, it's I remember after 2 or 3 defeats on the bounce, I come on here and I said, look, if you think we're not in a relegation battle, you're wrong. And then obviously we played really, really well and the results were good. And then obviously more recently against Leicester and Middlesbrough, we've been playing really well, but not getting the results. But today was the double whammy of not getting anything and also not playing well. Do I think that drags us back into it? No. But do I think a lot more performances like today? I think we will. You know.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, one pleasing thing to see is, although we were great for the first 15, 20 minutes, weren't we? We battled still. You know, we didn't play great, but you can see the players will try. You can see they're running their socks off a little bit, working hard. That's pleasing to see. When you've seen players not working hard, not trying to put tackles in, not make effort, then that's when you work. And that was kind of happening towards the end of Gary Rowett's reign. There's almost like a little bit of lack of interest, weren't it, from a lot of the players? Yeah. Not all of them, but some of them. But at the moment, I think you just got to put it down to a bit of a bad day at the office. QPR were fighting for their lives. You know, they use this as a London derby. They desperately need the 3 points. I mean, Jesus, I was listening to the iFollow commentary. I don't know about you, chaps, but when they scored that first goal, there was their commentator and Andy Sinton who was commentating.
Oh yeah.
But me, they cheered so loud when they first scored. When they scored that second one, they were screaming. Like, that's how much it meant to them, you know. So it just shows.
Get their rattle out as well, because I heard I had the Millwall commentary on. All I could hear in the background was a rattle.
God. But you can see what it meant to them.
Never me.
You can see what it meant to them. And that game must have been building up for a very, very long time. And they desperately want to beat us. And the players, to be fair, to give credit to them,
what you want to beat them, Joe. Sorry to like that's not good enough. Like we should have known they were going to be up for it today. It's a London derby, their opportunity to claim some points. They've been playing all right recently. You know, they've not been, but that's not good enough. We should almost be out fault.
Exactly. You can almost hear Joe Edwards' comments after the game, and what he's going to talk about is the basics again. You know, he touched on that right at the very beginning, didn't he? About you could do all the nice things, but what you can't do is not do the basics. You've got to be aggressive. You've got to run your socks off. You've got to work hard. You've got to do all these things. And these are things we didn't do very, very well. And like I said, QPR did it very, very well. Physically, I think they just dominated us a little bit. We both started playing direct football, but they're the players that can play direct football. We don't. And it's a shame. But like I said, we move on. What's the comments like, Chaps?
I was going to just ask you this question, mate, as well. I was going to ask you this question. So there's a few comments, including our own Stephen. So hello, Stephen. I think he was at the game today, wasn't he? So I don't know if he joined. That. But this is the most recent one. So I'll put this up from Darren. He says, what the fuck is going on with Esse? Seriously, played a lad for a few games, bipolar at Wall yet again. So let's keep on the first part of that point, which is Esse. Where, to me, there is clearly something, right? Because Edwards is not, for me, Edwards is the best judge, having played, managed and coached youth players all the time. He obviously doesn't fancy him. When Barrett was in charge for a little bit, he didn't fancy him. Rowett didn't fancy him. So I'll ask you this question in two parts, Joe. What do you think it is that means these managers don't fancy playing him? And if he's not going to play, should we let him go out on loan? And maybe that's the case. Maybe we're going to, but we just need a few more bodies in ourselves. Maybe that's the thing that's going on. Where do you stand on the whole Esse front? Because I know you're a big fan of his.
Well, as I was saying, Chaps, you know me well enough. You know I'm a huge fan of Romain Esse. I really rate the lad. And I've been crying out, as loads of Millwall fans have done for the last, how long now, trying to sort of, fight his corner, getting minutes, getting game time. But to be fair, the subs that he's come on for in recent games, he hasn't impressed. And now you could argue, okay, he's only been on for 10 minutes or whatever, 15 minutes. But even if you're on there for 5 minutes, you've got to work your fucking socks off. You've got to show you want it. You've got to be determined. Yeah. And he looks a little bit lazy out there, I don't know whether it's nerves. I don't know whether it's lack of confidence, because he's clearly a good player. He represents England under 18s or under 19s, isn't he? So he's a very, very, very good player. But I think there's areas of his game that needs to be improved on. His positioning is quite bad at times, off the ball I'm talking about. On the ball, no one quite knows where his natural position is. Sometimes he floats to the right. I quite like him in the 10. But then to do it, you've got to take Fleming out of the team. And sometimes I think, so you know what? When you're nervous, I'm sure this is for all players. When you've got that nerves, that gives you that kind of focus and that sharpness and that edge. When you come on that pitch, you're going to be up for it. You're there. Is he just a bit complacent because he's kind of confident now? He's hearing all the hype and all the sponsorship he's getting at the moment. He's thinking, you know what? I'm a good player. Blah 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 blah. And when he gets on the pitch, he's almost kind of like cruising, when really he should be, determined and making a difference and being tenacious. So he's not quite doing that at the moment. I mean, I'd love to speak to him, just say to him, almost shake him and say to him, Roman, when you get out there, fucking just give it your all. For those 10 minutes, just give it your all, but he's not quite taking that. And I reckon that's probably what the players, or sort of the coaches are seeing, and they don't really feel he's probably quite ready at the moment. But going back to your point, Chaps, I'll be happy to go out on loan. I never thought I would say that, but at this moment in time, I will be,
Yeah, I think for me, today was the game where, out of all of the games he could have come on since Edwards has been here, I would have expected him to come on, purely because there was no one else. The only other attacking change we had obviously was Ryan Longman. Edwards put him up top. So if he doesn't come on in a game like today, where we're losing, point one, no one is playing well, point two, and he's our only attacking option really on the bench, point three, and he still doesn't come on, to me, that says a lot. And I know a lot of fans were like, oh, he's so good that must mean he's off. I don't think it does. I just think that he needs to go to a League One side. Maybe he needs humbling. I don't know. He doesn't come across that sort of lad. You know, you and I both sort of had chats with him, and he just doesn't come across
lovely
that
guy.
sort of lad. Maybe it's just, it could be confidence. Who knows? But I think we can both agree that he needs game time. And if he's not going to be with us, then we should find a loan for him, which we may well have done. We just need to probably bring in more bodies ourselves. Joe, the last question I'll ask you, probably because we want to wrap up about 6. I'm taking the missus out for dinner, although now can't really be bothered. But
we've got to fly through these questions then quickly.
She's certainly not going to be listening to this. So I guess the last question I've got, and I would love to hear your thoughts for those of you that are in the chat. You know, we've got what? Where are we now? 10, 11 days left of the window. If you could sign 2 more players, I'm not going to say, you have to give me names, but what positions do you think we need and why? And I'll ask Joe if you.
Me, sorry.
I'm asking the people in the chat as well.
Yeah, I would love to hear the guys in the chat and see what their thoughts are. But if I can answer while we're waiting, is quite clearly we need attacking players, don't we? Really, defensively, you know, with Tanganga coming in, it's going to help strengthen us a little bit at the back. Hopefully, with a couple more games, we can start him. I think he'll be really, really good for us. Hopefully 1 or 2 other players will be coming back soon. Murray looked okay when he came on. He didn't look like he was hampered by injury or anything. But in the attacking areas, we're struggling. I think what we need is we probably need 2 positions looking at the moment. We probably need someone on the left-hand side, like a fast winger, someone to kind of complement Brooke Norton-Cuffy, but on the left-hand side. And I reckon we need 1 more player. We need a forward that's different to what we've got at the moment. And by that, what I mean to say is we've got Bradshaw and Nisbet, who, although they've got their own qualities and strengths, they're kind of like, you know, similar sort of players. What we really, really need is somebody like Sinclair Armstrong, a bit of a large target man that's strong, fast, that can hold the ball up, you know, run the channels, whatever, with a bit more quality, you know. And I mean that in the utmost respect to him. But some of that sort of, you know, ilk, somebody, he was something a bit different. You know, if we want to play 2 up top, we can play 2 up top. If we want to play him as a lone striker, we could play him as a lone striker. But we also need more pace in the team as well. Yeah, you know, we've often played Longman out on the left-hand side, and he's good. He kind of cuts in on his right foot quite often. I think he has to do that because he hasn't got the pace to go past the fullback. So we really need somebody who can replicate what Brooke Norton-Cuffy's doing on the right-hand side, but on the left, and give us that balance. It's where I'm looking at. But interested to see what your thoughts are, though, chaps, on that.
Yeah, and before I share mine, I'm just going to share some of the comments. So Glyn says, Nisbet was terrible today, looked completely out of his depth. A seasoned striker will find space and be a target for our midfield. John said, by the way, Joe doesn't, but I agree with you, Glyn.
I just think he was isolated a little bit. He's a good player, but he needs either players around him. He can't play that lone striker role. I think he really does struggle, especially against bigger. He does
struggle as a lone striker. Yeah. John says, goalkeeper. I mean, Sarkic has made his definite fair share of clangers, isn't he? Centre forward and a 10. London Lion says, anyone who says Cresswell, I'm going to vomit. Vampire Millwall says, get Langstaff from Notts County. I don't disagree with you, mate, but I think, unfortunately, there's about 4 or 5 other clubs ahead of us with more money. Metin says, we need strikers.
Yeah.
Vampire Millwall's probably still at Christmas because he says, sell Nisbet for a mince pie. CO says, a true full forward and a winger. Hopefully, Tanganga can compare it with somebody and allow us to play back 4. I've had enough of Joe Bryan's defence as well.
Oh, don't get started on Joe Bryan. I know you touched on that earlier. I don't want to kind of throw the fuel on that one. But
Glyn clearly has the same.
What the fuck is Joe Bryan doing defensively? That you made a very good point there. When that cross come in, okay, the player sort of turned him and crossed it with his left foot, which will be on Joe Bryan's side. But you got to make the tackle. You got to try and stop that cross from coming in. How often has it cost us defensively? You know.
Agreed. So in terms of the players I would go for me, I agree with you that another option down that left-hand side could be a good one, but I would prioritise another position over that personally. So I think we need a proper mobile target man centre forward. We were trying to get Kiefer Moore in the summer. That didn't happen. I can assure you it's not going to happen now. The likes of Sunderland, Ipswich, Middlesbrough all looking at him. That's not going to happen. But that kind of striker,
What about Lyndon Dykes, chaps? What about Lyndon? I mean, is there any kind of mileage in that? Again, I've looked at him before in the past couple of times. I mean, he looked good today.
He signed a new deal, didn't he? And I think he would still cost well over £1 million. So I don't think so. But we need some kind of. There might be a young, Tottenham or Chelsea or Arsenal player that Joe Edwards knows who will come in and do that role. That's willing to run the channels. Will try to bully defenders. That kind of strikers. I think we need one of them. And then obviously. We don't know. The club haven't announced how long Imaku's out for, and then that only really leaves you. If we're going to play a three up front, that leaves you just Fleming and Watmore to play on that kind of forwards, like number 10s. And to me, that's not enough. And they're not adding numbers, and they've not been good enough. So I think, for me, the other position I would prioritise would be like I guess we call them a forward nowadays, but someone to sort of play in that front three that is proven to add numbers, whether that's goals, assists, or whatever, because those two aren't doing it. And I'm not happy having just those two available, particularly when we don't know Imaku's out. So they're the two I would go for. Based on completely no knowledge whatsoever, I reckon we will probably bring someone in next week. As Hughesy says here, Rich Cowley did tweet today to say that a young prospect is very likely to sign. Agree, that's not ideally what we need now. So I would expect that to come in addition to the players.
At the moment, I'll take anyone. Well, and also good, of course.
Well, yeah. I mean, but we need bodies back as well. Let's not underestimate that. You've had. We've already mentioned this, but Bradshaw, Imaku, Denor, Saville's been out injured. Leonard's injured. Sorry, Saville's been out with obviously his red card.
Imaku and I mean, how desperate? Who would have thought we miss Imaku this much? Just when we had him up front, that pace that he was giving us, which we desperately need at the moment,
gives us something no one else has got, right, Joe? Imaku in the side at the moment, which is just that. Pure, I guess he's not the same player as Sinclair Armstrong, but just like that, I'd say he's not as strong as Sinclair Armstrong, but he's quicker. So he's direct. He'll drive at you with the ball.
He's both
he'll make you think and go backwards. There isn't anyone else in the side at the moment that has that kind of athleticism outside of Brook Norton-Cuffy, who I absolutely love, and I think the club should do everything they can to keep him. But he was poor today. There's no denying he had zero impact.
I wonder whether he was carrying something or not, because he pulled him off and he rather played Danny Mack there rather than him, which is a bit weird. Why would you do this? When you're chasing the game, so who knows whether that knee flared up? We don't know, do we? We don't know. We don't know whether Brian was carrying something and therefore Murray Wallace wasn't fully fit, so we couldn't start him. That's right.
But yeah, so. Look, I'm going to end on a positive. I'm going to call it there, Joe. But I'm going to end on a positive because I agree with a lot of what Glyn said there. So Glyn said that Billy fought hard. His passing was good. Hits through ball to Watmore was totally class. Shame our attackers managed to diffuse every attack. I think Glyn's got a lot spot on there. And I think, look, it's hard to take positives, but I do think Billy Mitchell had one of his better games today. And, I think he's probably the only positive that we can take from today. So, but Joe, before we round up, I mean, this wasn't planned whatsoever. I sort of suggested to Mickey this morning that I do this live because I was at home and obviously I couldn't go to the game. I didn't expect us to play as badly and lose 2-0. And then Joe, obviously you said that you were around to come on. And I think this has been good. And it's obviously been...
enjoyed it.
Anything to say, mate?
Well, it's a shame it wasn't a positive result and or a positive performance. It'd certainly make this a lot easier and sweeter. But no, I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate the listeners on here as well and getting your comments and your thoughts. And let's move forward to Zip Preston next Saturday, next game at home.
The key there is we need to move forward, right? We need to draw a line under this. Well, it's hard because it's so raw, but.
No.
Bad day at the office. Move on.
Exactly. And, trust the process.
Yeah, and I will certainly be having a few beers tonight to try. You can't beat a pint of Cobra in an Indian restaurant.
All day. Absolutely.
But look, thank you everyone that's commented in the chat. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone that's watched this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Maybe can do these more often. We'll see. I don't know. But look, yeah, really, as always, really appreciate you joining, and thank you so much for listening. And look, try and enjoy the rest of your weekend, whatever you do. And I'm sure we'll speak to you soon. So thanks very much. Thanks, Joe.
Cheers, Chaps.
And bye for now. Thank you. Have a good evening.